Yeah. We've played around with that a lot. The question is number 2. But she's such a presence in the air defensively, and she actually, if you see her on set pieces, she doesn't have a nose for the goal attacking-wise, and she's got great long ball distribution, and when we've done it, she's ended up getting kind of jammed up, and the short game isn't her game as well as. The bummer is, what we've had a bit of a difficult time doing, because she does love to go forward, is keeping the reins on her, because when she goes forward, you notice the big gap, and we got countered on. Every time she went forward, it was dangerous, but if we didn't create something to slow them down a little bit, they would counter on us, and they got 60 easy yards before we slowed them down. So keeping the reins on her was tough to do, and I think it's a good problem to have. Normally you're trying to keep them in the rear to get moving a little bit, but with Kate, I think she sometimes tries to do too much in a good way, but we have messed with that a lot because she loves to attack, but we really miss her. We've actually had her at center back some of the time. Last year, our Elite 8 run, she played in center back. We had an injury back there, and it was fantastic. So it just suits our strengths a little bit better.
It seemed in the first half, especially, you had a huge gap in space on the right side.
Yeah.
And it seemed like you weren't recognizing it well, and making the shift.
Yeah, that was our game plan. I think Leslie probably mentioned that earlier, and probably the last 15-20 minutes it started to open up a little bit for us, and then their problem was they kept cutting inside, not just staying wide to create that space. And when we were playing it to the right side, I felt like we were still playing it in our back half of the field, when really the attacking half of the field was still wide open. So it was taking our outside backs were a little late in getting forward.
Yeah, that was my follow-up. It seemed like number 20, your outside back, held back a lot and wasn't pushing forward. I wasn't sure if it was that something.
No, I think I'm a goalkeeper, so the nature of a defender is, do I really want to leave when I'm supposed to be defending? And she played forward for a club team for many years, so of course we're going to be the first one to hammer her when she gets beat 1v1 on the other side. So I just think in such a big game, a little bit of a hesitation. And I also think she sees all the space in front of her, so she thinks I'll just get it to my feet and then I'll take it. But if she would start up a little bit higher, we'd start attacking. But yeah, it's a good point. We mentioned that a little bit at halftime. And they made a couple of adjustments, so it wasn't as on the second half.
Jordy had a great game. Did she take one in the face in the first half? Is that right? The face?
I think she saved it with the heel of her hand. Her face looked fine. Jordy has been like that all season for us. And we have our second string keeper is almost as good as Jordy, and normally we've had instances where we've been able to switch them, but she's been like, she's on fire, like perfect, so we can't play the other one. There's the father of the other one right there. I mean, she's you know, when you're in the groove, you're like, well, we just got to keep her in the groove, and that's kind of been Jordy this year for us. She's been amazing. She's good with her feet, but she's not used to wearing screw-ins, so she was. I wanted you guys to all see how phenomenal she was. She was a little off today. Anything else?
What did you say at halftime?
Halftime was if they still were going to give us the flanks, to make sure that we stayed wide and didn't cut in. And I felt like what was starting to open up was as we were switching it, we needed to stop switching it all the way. We needed to get it right into 21, who was wide open. And 21 wasn't checking for it, and it's just screaming her head off. And I think we just got into the groove where, you know, Washington State was coming this way, and we just wanted to keep it going away from pressure. But we wanted our attacking midfielders to get much more play on the game. And Washington State's back four were dropping back and weren't letting anything over the top, and we just kept flicking things. We wanted Sarah Martinez, number 5, to face up, and 24 to face up, and you can tell that sometimes they did it, but they were still used to just, oh my gosh, I feel the pressure. But as soon as they received the ball, you'd see all 4 of them drop, and so we were trying to get them to turn and just do a quick combination a little bit more often. And that's where I felt like we failed. I feel like from 18 to 18 we were pretty good, or from our defensive, you know, from 1 to their 18, and then we just kind of petered out with the final piece of the puzzle. I think that's probably a lot of people's problems. No one has that perfect finisher. Or I also think we weren't used to having so much space, because they were dropping and we were just firing shots from 30 yards out, and I think there was plenty of time and space to combine and even put our head down and dribble 10, 15 more yards and pull that defense out. So those are the things that we were talking about.
With us, what you said about when dropping off in that space, you not consider maybe taking the system over towards the end of the game. So when your number 5 was quite good at receiving, you know? Maybe going with more of a partner, essentially quite like striker.
Yeah, we thought of that, but because the flanks were still open and we were getting serves off of that, and typically if we play with 2 in the center, if we play 4-4-2, you mean?
Yeah.
Our 4 has always this year had trouble matching up with the 3,
right, okay.
And that's where I felt like they're good enough where we could just make that change without us having to make too many adjustments. But yeah, 5 is a perfect target player, but she was coming back too deep, so that was another issue where.
Do you typically stay the same system the whole game?
We've changed it. Yeah. And I felt like things were going our way. I didn't feel like they were dominating, you know, and I felt like we were getting some chances and we were possessing it for the better portion of the game, and so I felt like things were working. It's just they weren't polished enough. They weren't sharp enough.
Curious, how would you describe Washington State's style of running?
I feel like they're pretty direct, but not every time I say direct, I think people think I think they're direct with a purpose, and they'll play a little ball back. I think it's up, back, and through pretty quickly. I think their momentum, they use their momentum. They have some players with powerful bursts, and they just keep going forward and hope that we'll have a hard time catching them, which we did. I feel like they're number 2 and 20. And actually 13 gave us some trouble dribbling out of the midfield, and we were only playing 1 back and they were playing too high, so we got outnumbered a couple times. But I feel like they play quick, direct possession. It comes straight at you. All season long, their scattering reports have been counterattack. I didn't feel like they did that much with us. I felt like they tried to build up and generate some attack. But when all else failed, they just get it forward to the nearest white. Yeah.
In the first half, your 2 wide forwards, it seemed like your left wide forward was playing almost more like a wide midfield, and the wide right forward was pushing up real high. Was that by design, or did it just?
Well, we knew that their right side was the one we were going to attack the most, so it was. But and I think since we thought we were going to the right, if we were to lose it as we were going to the right, we just had her pinch in a little bit. But when it went back to the center, she was supposed to pop out just wide and stay nice and high. We kept saying, stay high, stay high, stay high. Unless they win the ball and start dribbling, then you got to track. But I think once it went out to that side, they just pitched in and kind of relaxed, and it didn't put them under pressure as much as it should have. Good point. You guys should have coached our team. Maybe we would have done a better job. I'm teary-eyed because I'm going to miss our seniors. All right, did you have a question?
Yeah. So Amy, when you bring somebody in that in club and maybe high school, they're used to playing up front, because there's probably not a whole lot of outside backs that can attack the way that you want. So what's your developmental process to get them from, I have my back to goal, now everything's in front of me, and how do I attack that way?
You say, Andy Sitar, you're now back. No, you start really small with just the basics, and even if for our outside backs, it can be as simple as if I'm a right back and I make sure this is the edge of the field, I receive it with my outside foot, and maybe we'll make them beat a player who's defending, 50-60%, beat a player, get inline serve, and hit some certain targets to serve. Number 20, who's a great defender, good in the air, can hit a great long ball, sometimes gets beat 1v1. But she is one that she has a difficult time popping back and facing the field. She'll end up facing this way and wanting to receive it. And again, she's used to playing up front. So a lot of times we do video breakdown because it's so easy for us to see on the bench, and you're like, face the field, you can only play one, you gotta see everybody. And she's like, yeah. And you'll show 2 clips on the video, and you'll see it. And habits are hard to break. So it just is repetition. It's nothing really that fancy at all. Just start at the simple things, and our outside backs will do that, and our outside mids will be up a little bit higher in the field and doing similar.
Anything technically that